Chapter 3, Fractures. The storm raged on as evening approached, showing no signs of abating. The wind continued to howl, and the rain pounded against the windows with unrelenting force. Sarah sat on the couch, absently stroking Max's fur as she stared at the flickering candlelight. Jake was pacing the room, his anxiety evident in the way he kept glancing at the windows and checking his phone, even though the signal had been lost hours ago. "Do you think it's ever going to stop?" Jake finally asked, breaking the heavy silence. Sarah sighed, her own unease mirrored in his voice. "It has to. Storms like this can't last forever." "But what if it's not just a storm?" Jake stopped pacing and looked at her, his expression more serious than she'd ever seen. "You've been saying there's something off about all this. What if you're right?" Sarah's mind raced back to her research, the data she'd been analyzing over the past few months. The irregular patterns, the strange behavior of the marine life, everything seemed to be building to this moment, this storm. But she still couldn't piece it all together. "I don't know, Jake. I just don't know. But whatever it is, we'll get through it. We have to." A loud crash from outside made them both jump. Jake rushed to the window and peered out into the darkness. "I think a tree just came down." Sarah joined him at the window, straining to see through the sheets of rain. The large oak tree that had stood proudly in their front yard for decades was now leaning precariously, its roots partially torn from the ground. "If that thing falls on the house," Jake didn't finish the sentence, but the fear in his voice was clear. "We need to move to the back of the house," Sarah said, her voice calm despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "It's safer there." They gathered Max and the emergency supplies they had laid out earlier and retreated to the back room, which was farthest from the trees and the fury of the storm. The room was smaller, more cramped, but it felt safer somehow, insulated from the worst of the storm's wrath. As they settled in, the tension between them began to rise. Being confined in close quarters, coupled with the stress of the storm, brought old resentments to the surface. Jake, always the more carefree and impulsive of the two, had never fully understood Sarah's dedication to her work. And now, as the storm battered their home, he couldn't help but voice his frustrations. "This whole thing is insane," Jake said, sitting down on the floor with his back against the wall. "You've been obsessed with this research for months, and now look where it's gotten us. We're trapped in this house, in the middle of God knows what kind of storm, and you're still trying to figure it out." Sarah bristled at his words. "This isn't about my research, Jake. This storm, whatever it is, has nothing to do with me. Doesn't it?" Jake shot back, his voice rising. "You've been so focused on your data, on those damn patterns, that you haven't even noticed what's happening right